newly minted Transport Minister Simeon Brown, who not only this week has axed the Light Rail project in Auckland, but has also made yesterday some major changes to road user charges. He is here, joins us on the line now to tell us about them. Minister, thank you for joining us. Good morning to you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Sean.
All right, these RUC charges. So until now, if you drove an electric vehicle, the Tesla or whatever, you didn't pay RUCs, right? If you drove, I think, an HP EV, which is a hybrid petrol electric vehicle, you didn't have to either. That's all going to change, right?
Yeah, so the last national government back in 2009, I think it was, put in place an exemption for light electric vehicles. I think there was only 9 or 10 of them on the road at the time. And that was due to saved on admin, but it also meant that we were able to encourage the uptake of electric vehicles. The whole intent of that policy was until the light vehicle fleet was 2% electric, we would have that exemption in place. It's reached that now, and now it's time to have to change the policy, which is to ensure that all road users are contributing towards building and maintaining our roading network, which we use.
All right. How many vehicle owners, how many vehicles will be affected by this policy change?
I think there's around about 100,000 vehicles, which are either battery electric or plug-in hybrid electric vehicles who are impacted. So it is a large number of vehicle owners. The New Zealand Transport Agency is going to be undertaking quite a bit of work to inform them of their obligations from the 1st of April. There'll also be a 2-month transition period just to ensure that this transition does go smoothly. It's a large number of vehicles coming into the road user charge system. So we're really keen to make sure this works smoothly. But I think most electric vehicle owners knew this was coming. The exemption ran out on the 1st of April, and we're simply confirming that is where it's going to go.
All right. And there's a differentiated rate for HP EVs. Hybrid
PHEVs.
Or PH, what are they? Is it PHEVs?
Yeah, a PHEV is a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Okay. So it's both battery powered and petrol powered.
Yeah.
And you can plug it in, so you can use electricity to motor it. So at the moment, those people who have those vehicles would be paying fuel excise duty on any petrol they use, but they're not paying for when they're driving as it is an electric vehicle. And so what we've got is a reduced ruck rate, which acknowledges the fact that they are using petrol as well. It's based on an average across the fleet, so it does depend on how those individual people use it as to whether or not actually what the ultimate amount they will be paying. And I guess this highlights the sort of a wider issue in that this government, through the National Act Coalition Agreement, has committed to progressing to move all vehicles into the road user charge system, so that all vehicles are paying the same amount regardless of what type of fuel or energy is actually fueling that vehicle. And we think that's about fairness and equity, rather than you pay more tax based on what type of fuel that you may use in your vehicle.
Right, all right, and that's because the road wear is fundamentally the same. How much revenue will you get per annum, do you estimate, out of this change?
I think it's estimated to be about $80 to $100 million per year. So that's money that will go into the National Land Transport Fund to help assist with building and maintaining the roading network.
Okay, the Greenies are going to screen this will stop people buying EVs and making the change to clean energy.
Well, I think the reality is, as you would see around the world, car manufacturers are switching to electric vehicles. And so we're going to see more and more of these vehicles become available in New Zealand at a better and better price point. And that means that New Zealanders are going to purchase them. They are much cheaper to run based on the price of electricity compared to the price of petrol. That's going to make a huge difference in terms of people making those choices. So ultimately, the fleet will transition over time. This is about ensuring that as that fleet transition occurs, everyone who uses our roads is contributing towards building and maintaining them.
Okay, what about cyclists? When are you going to go for them?
That's not something this government's got in our sights. We do in the National New Zealand First Coalition Agreement have agreed that we'll be spending less on cycleways than former governments, and we're working on the government policy statement on transport, which will give effect to that. And I've also made some decisions late last year which reduced some funding into some of those activities.
So the light rail wearers still get a free ride, though?
Look, we're not going to be going out there and start registering and taxing cyclists. The reality is the impact they have on the road is very minimal. But what we are going to do is make sure that the spend that goes into cycleways is less, but also is far more reasonably spent.
All right. Let's talk light rail then. You have axed, the much debated, changed, written about by Simon Wilson light rail in Auckland. Why? Fundamentally, why?
Well, fundamentally, for two reasons. One, because actually there's not even a business case despite 6 years and $228 million spent. And secondly, it's going to cost between $15 billion and $29.2 billion, which is a massive opportunity cost. There are significant other transport projects and priorities around the country which this government wants to invest in Auckland, but also across New Zealand. And by pouring all of that capital into one particular project, it limits the government's choices in terms of what needs to be delivered, whether that's building the roads of national significance, whether that's increasing the number of busways that we have in our major cities. Those are the priorities of this government, rather than simply putting all our eggs in one light rail basket.
It's a lot of money to write off, $228 million.
Well, I mean, that is a significant amount of money, and I would just say, it's appalling that the former government sunk so much money into a particular project. They had 6 years in government, but couldn't even get spades in the ground to start it, despite 6 years. They hadn't even delivered a business case. The only people who seemed to benefit from this were the consultants who were charging millions and millions of dollars. So this is a case of how not to do infrastructure, and the last government has unfortunately left a very expensive or huge amount of wasted money there for which we're cancelling, so we don't continue this.
But the cancellation does nothing to solve Greater Auckland's congestion woes, does it?
Well, we are rewriting the government policy statement on transport.